I have come here with some help. What we are giving out for today is a series of helpful links right at the beginning of the season. So it could be guides for the entire season, how to gear, what to go for, how to spend your craft, what to craft first, as well as things like loot table and loot helpers to help you find your best upgrades, guides for raid bosses, raid mechanics, Mythic Plus dungeons and Mythic Plus mechanics, and a series of other very helpful links that me and other IIQ users make use of. So we're gonna now spread them to all of the community. You will find the links down below in the description at the end of this video, after going through what I think are the more useful ones you can take a look at. NA right now has already gone live. So the first one is Larias' Raider's Guide for 11.2, a returning classic at this point for multiple expansions, although as usual Larias is a liar. This is not a Raider's Guide, this is a guide for everyone doing PvE content, including Mythic Plus. It's not just for raiders. What it does is very simply going through, walking through what has come in 11.2, the new things, and then more importantly the weekly checklist and gearing guide for your characters, like trying to tell you some important things to remind yourself of at the beginning of the season. A few min-maxing features even for nerds, like going in delves to farm flicker gates, to farm the shrieking quartz you will need to summon Kaiveza at the beginning of the season, so she gives you the Delver's Bounty map to guarantee your 1 out of 6 hero track item in that delve, and then what to do in the actual release of the season. From, of course, the delves to the hard mode Tazavesh, as well as how to spend your crests. What items to upgrade for ruined crests, for example, for gilded crests, a general idea, a benchmark on which item level you should kind of aim at the end of the first week of the season and even at the end of the second week of the season. These are all useful things you can find in this guide. Now, finally, an end to this torment. Where Sims? Are we having Sims? Are Sims done? Are we getting some Sim compilation for Season 3? Is there a tier set power level different Sim somewhere? Ulria is making Sims for Season 3. They should be out at the release of this season, possibly even now as this video goes live. You will have the usual things that are present in these spreadsheets. You have the raw simulation DPS, and then you will have the DPS difference between the 4-piece of the last season and the 4-piece of this season, as well as the raw difference between the no tier set at all and the 4-piece tier set, as well as then power infusion sims to see who gains the most, who will be the target of PI for this season. So you'll find the link of this down below, and it should be filled out very soon, since the beginning of the season is right about now. Now, a good thing for healers and a helpful one also for everyone else will be the timers of abilities for Mythic Plus, not for the raid. Being able to have written down, and also something, by the way, you can copy and paste, for example, in timers in game, in your note in game if you use it, knowing, for example, that the first boss of Priory is going to do the Holy Radiance AoE every 38 seconds. That's a good thing to know. Same goes for the Castigator shields and the following AoE done by the second boss, or moving over perhaps to dungeons you're not aware of yet, like Ecodome, that you have only done in Mythic 0 right now. For example, knowing the timers of the splinters, basically the catch your copy, catch your soul mechanic on the last boss of Ecodome Aldani, which is about 1.5 minutes away, for example. These are helpful to know the timers of the mechanics of the bosses, and especially, of course, for healers, in case you wanted to plan some CDs for the mechanics. Talking about sheets, we have an even bigger one. This is the raid sheet. I find amongst the many guides for the raid, I know many players are below 3-digit IQ. They are also very visual creatures, so they need things moving to understand. They need not just pictures or an entire video guide. This would explain the first boss much better, right? Hey, the first boss has a soak, you need to get in, and then it explodes and you get get knocked back. Hey, you get circles, you run to the edge. Hey, in the intermission, he runs at the edge of the corridor and you have to run through all this garbage to reach the boss and break the shield. And by the way, this barrier will go through the corridor and you have to click your extra action button, legendary cloak, to go through it. Right, that's the boss, and you can understand it very quickly going through these gifts, essentially. All of the mechanics, even with the explanation, you know, just in case, to make you understand what exactly you're supposed to be doing. This is, to me, amongst the simplest ones to understand in terms of recognizing and you know, understanding which of the mechanics are what, essentially. Just a couple of seconds of a GIF rather than having to go through an entire video, because none of you has the attention span to watch a 7-minute video, but you can spend 2 seconds watching at a clip. Now, talking about player power, you have your loot table. This is a loot table we have already checked a few days ago. It has already since been upgraded. For example, now you can also filter by stats you want. Like, let's just pick, you know, haste over crit, and nobody cares about verse. This will be the priority, filtering everything with haste first, right? In your gear, whether it is, for example, the raid bosses first or none of the dungeons, and you just want to look at the raid stuff, or reverse, all Mythic plus, no dungeons, to check where the cool stuff drops from dungeon in this example for haste. This is what you can check from this filter. This also comes already with the attached item level reference for you to understand exactly which kind of item levels we are talking about when looking at these items from this filter. A very minor thing, but you might still need it. Maybe, you know, bookmark it, check it out before entering a Mythic Plus key, especially early on when you're not familiar with the dungeons. These are the Dispel trackers of all dungeons. So this will tell you very quickly, for example, I want to check out, I am a spec that can get rid of bleeds, for example, let's say an evoker, right? I want to check where are the bleeds, which dungeons have a bleed, basically which dungeons I can use my Cauterizing Flame bleed removal on, right? Or you could be Enrage. I have an Enrage Dispel. Do I need to take Enrage Dispel for this dungeon? That can also be quite useful as a single, you know, as a single bookmark, a single things to check in a few seconds before a key, for example. This can help as well. And also the simplest one, you can just go by type and check where all the bleeds are. For example, if you only care about bleed, if you want to take your purge, you can check which ones can be purged all at once by simply changing the ordering of the list. Now, I left the more comprehensive one for last, which is Viserios. Don't get too misled by the Viserios cooldowns. The thing has expanded a lot. We have gone far along since the days this used to be just a clunky spreadsheet. So many players would already know this as a cooldown and raid assignment tool for your raid node. You can set up your own cooldown assignments, right, for the abilities in the fight, whether it's mythic or heroic, or even make up the entire group of your raid. But it's not just that. This can extend to be much more than just a cooldown assignment setup or a raid setup for your guild. You have many other things in here. Quite a few are still guild focused, like the Curious Split tool or the Raid Simulator. The Mythic Plus tool is somewhat similar to what we already checked in here. This does offer you a couple more things, like for example help with your group, with your pre-med, if you were thinking about stacking certain armor classes, for example. You see in this complete random pag you only have an 8% chance to get your leather stuff, but then of course if you change everything to practically be a leather user, somehow we made it as a mega resto group. Let's get one guardian and the imaginary scenario where this group will have triple ferals. Now all your leather chance of course is much higher. So this can help as well for your non-raider features, but then also plenty of guides. This can also be quite useful. This is a guide about the power of your item level and your item level scaling that you can read through, as well as guides, for example, about the crest spending. and what can be more efficient into spending crests on, like for example never upgrading a 2 out of 6 heroic item, that you can read into why it's not smart to upgrade a 2 out of 6 heroic item, as well as the expectation on when to get done upgrading, in this case heroic crests or ruined crests at the beginning of the season, and a few other guides like the tier sets and the catalyst system. This can be more helpful for the raid, for your splits, essentially how many players you need for your tokens per clear based on your raid size, and helpful tools for gearing up, even guides for crafting, as well as crafting your essentially your gear, the best possible craft at the beginning of the season, especially where it is way more important, as well as the further on for the importance of upgrading your gear and crafting your gear, the slot strength, just how important it is to upgrade, for example, a chest compared to upgrading something like bracers, right? This will give you a good idea on, for example, just how much a ring is powerful compared to upgrading a chest, despite the fact that the ring doesn't even have your main stat, just to name one. This one is definitely the more comprehensive one if you were looking at just most of everything, going through the Viserio cooldown site for getting lots of information about the season. The last point is just an extra, the encounter planner, due to being a freshly released tool. This time we are talking about an add-on, not a site. This is useful because with the timeline reminders for Liquid requiring effectively for you to pay, or for someone you know, someone in your guild for example, to be paying, as well as the MRT being quite clunky to set up, almost voodoo levels of outdated to set up, this one is definitely more friendly, more user friendly to be able to set up. So since it's come out very recently and that's been updated for this season very recently, if you wanted to try it out, this would be the time for you to do so. But these are just about the most important links I would like to give to you before right as the season is being released. Many of the important things you might look at the beginning of the season can be found in here, things you might be wondering about, whether it is for the raid, for Mythic class, or for your own character. So with this good Samaritan feat done, we can stop for today. We're now saying our goodbyes for everyone who has been watching this video and hopefully has found at least a couple of these links to be helpful. And now we are leaving each other by starting the goodbyes, by thanking everyone who has been supporting completely for free by liking and commenting down below, as well as everyone who can still support completely for free by subscribing to the channel itself. Now, with this out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys tomorrow, and in the meantime, maybe I missed one or two, you know, one of these things where you think, if I forgot it, it might not have been that important. I hope so.